Cool. So I guess we can get started. Thank you all for making time to join tonight. It's nice to see a lot of your faces who we don't get to see that often currently. And so tonight we're just going to take a few minutes to provide some general updates and answer any questions. We're going to take a look at the guiding principle statement that a lot of us worked on together back in the fall when we were talking about real goals for the project. And then we're going to move into some discussions about, what this idea of the Vare essence might look like in social space. And for anyone who's not familiar with this idea of Vare essence, the idea essence really came from David Warren. I think many of you probably know him as Day Day. I see him at Vare pretty often. He's a carpenter, and him and his kids are always hanging around and participating. And when we were having some workshops, oh, hi, Lisa. Nice to see you.
Hey, Lisa.
When we were having some workshops in the fall, we were talking about this idea of what should the rec center look like? What should the playground look like? And David offered this idea that really what was most important is that when people walked into Vare, that they could feel the essence of the community. And a lot of other community members agreed with that and felt strongly that that would be for us to pursue. So that conversation is kind of the basis of some of these conversations. So in terms of general updates, we are working with the city still to finalize layout plan, and about that last meeting. We were talking about what that layout like with the if we are moving things forward, submitting and resubmitting, eventually there has to be an end date, and we understand that. So where we're at right now is that we have resubmitted an updated building layout to the city. They are reviewing it this week, and we're hoping that we will have approval within the next week or so. Timelines are difficult. I think we all understand that the city is under immense pressure right now, and that there are many things really working against them, and that there's been a lot of turnover in some key departments. So we will continue pushing to get reviews and approvals to keep the project moving. And as soon as we have approval of a site layout, I think we'll have an updated project schedule that we can share with everyone, so that everyone is aware of what the plan is for program relocation, for the beginning of construction, and all the pieces in between. So that should be coming very soon. But tonight, well, I should ask, does anyone have any questions about that before we move on to some of tonight's conversations? Okay, great. Just as a reminder, a couple guidelines that we've been using for these meetings are to, really feel free to ask questions. Every question is a good question. If you're wondering something, someone else probably is too. And we will answer everything with as much information as we currently have. Please remember to mute your mic if you're not speaking. We just want to make sure we cut down on background noise so that we can hear everyone who is trying to contribute at the moment. Take care of yourself. We recognize that this is, this is evening, it's dinner time. So if you want to get up, stretch, get a drink, check on the kids, whatever you need to do, please take care of yourself. This is very informal. And then just one note that I'm going to start recording now, just so that we are able to share this session with folks who couldn't make it. And if moving forward, if you do not want to show up in the recording, or you're at all uncomfortable with that, please let Steph or I know, and we will, we will find a way to edit the recording before we get it. Yeah, so on that note, I am going to.
And usually when I look in there, if there's adults in there, it's usually about 3 or 4 or 5. It's not a whole lot. And I don't think it needs to be any bigger, but it's just the fact that you have that, and then you have the teen room, which becomes a multi-purpose room. So I would think that same type of design would be at play, where rooms can be multi-purpose. you know, like she had mentioned with dividers. But I've seen, again, even in the teen room, they've used that for adults gathering for big and small. If it be not just the advisory board. How many are on the advisory board? About 10. I don't know. Mike would know that. But that's usually a smaller group. And then for what we're doing now, you know, we pretty much packed that room out when we were doing the design. So you see what I'm getting at. Big and small, these were the gathering of adults, us coming together for this purpose. But I believe the multi-purpose, I've seen even upstairs, when the upstairs was working, I think Miss Lisa had, she had a little sewing class. And I think if it being a lot of adults, some of the adults were coming to that. But that was a gathering. And where I'm getting at, it's different sizes from 5 to 25. And you definitely, I advocate for accommodating for that with multi-purpose spaces.
Well, and I think just to be clear, we're trying to get at both the inside and the outside and providing a variety of sizes of spaces to accommodate that, so that you have a right size space if you have like 5 people that want to play checkers, right?
Yeah.
You have a right size space if it's 1 to 2 people who need to be alone for a little bit and calm down, or, you know, take a break and take a load off. But then at the same time, a space where you could have a birthday party or a celebration. But those numbers, getting a sense of how much space, that those numbers help us determine space, which then helps us, you know, sort of get further down the road. That's why we're just being specific around that. And Scott, you guys are trying to move ahead on some of the Scott from Cadence, you guys are trying to move ahead on some of the outside stuff sooner, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share the results quickly for spending time with youth, because then we can just move on to getting to some of those outside elements. Spaces. So it just looks like the top response was game, which is similar to the time spent with adults, and then followed by read, study, and celebrate as well.
Thanks, Steph. Can you read one more time, just like the order of highest to the...
Yeah, I can. Hold on. Sorry, I have to pull it up. So the first one is, this is with adults, but we're looking at youth. So for youth, it was the top was game, and then followed by read/study, which was 78%, and then celebrate, which is also 78%, and then exercise. But the other ones are pretty close in percentages as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think a good question to build off of that, similar to what Alex was just asking, is the idea of games, or the idea of reading and studying. Just what does that look like? Is it a single adult child, or an adult with a few children for like reading and studying? Is the gaming like one-on-one table games, or are there like other ideas around games? So for anyone that selected games, can you talk to us a bit more about that and what you had in mind?
Games with the children. I like the fact that he said setting up some checker tables outside. That's perfect. I know one of the designs was boulders, and you have like some big boulders or stone seating areas. Was that in one of our designs? It's been such a while.
Yes, Stacy. Yeah, and I think tonight we had planned to get to discussing specific spaces based on some of the ideas that we're talking about. I think the conversation has been really good and really helpful so far.
Games for children. I mean, it could be double dutch. It could be, a definitely. Hey, okay. Yes. Like that ideal too. Yeah. And I guess games for all size children. So you need a little tot area, of course.
Yeah.
Play their games. It's not. Personally, not a lot of running around games, I guess, but games that are more structured and steady.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful to understand, Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
Mike,
Mm-hmm.
did you want to expand on games, Mike?
Where you at?
Maybe not. Did anyone else who selected games want to just share a bit about what you were thinking when you selected it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mike.
Oh, I like how Spruce Street Harbor is made for a little bit of everybody. They got the built-in. They have the built-in games, and then they have like they got like a big giant you can play chess and different things.
Like Xfinity, down Xfinity, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
And they have the hammocks. I don't know if we could do the hammocks, but you know the hammocks is therapeutic to some teens and young kids because you could get in a hammock and you could read a book. You could listen to your earphones. There's so many things you could do. Even if we didn't have as many hammocks as Spruce Street Harbor, maybe we had 2 or 3. I think it should be just universal to everybody. From toddlers to middle-aged kids, teens, and then even older adults to come over there and get some kind of enjoyment out of there as far as games. Or just providing tables at all times that's out there for them to bring, even if they're bringing their own games, just having that setup spot for them, I think would be good.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. One thing you mentioned, Mike, the idea of like some of the larger games with moving pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear your feedback from someone who has worked at Vare with the youth so much. The idea of having like game spaces where there could be moving parts or moving piece games, is that something you think, one, is a good idea from an operations standpoint from someone who has worked with the youth, and 2, something that you think the youth would like and appreciate?
Oh, absolutely. If there was a way that we could store the stuff outside, like in something where it won't get messed up or whatever. The teens love doing obstacle courses, and and we always make sure we put those pieces and all that stuff back. So if there was a way we could store stuff outside, we could do the big chess pieces, the big checker pieces, and all that stuff, and just make sure that at the end of the day or the end of the hour or whatever, and who's out there, that we put it back. But I think that would be good because when they go to Spruce Street Harbor, they have a good time with their stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. That's helpful. That's really helpful feedback. Like Alex mentioned, not just thinking about number of people in a space, but also just what's available to use in that space, whether it is games or storage that is accessible.
Right.
You mentioned outside because you think it wouldn't be best to have to go back in the building to use and get things out, or is there another reason you want to make sure there's storage outside?
I mean, I think storage outside is better because a lot of times the kids drop pieces. There's no one in the inside to really see what they dropped. Till the next day, you go pull out stuff and stuff is missing. So if someone's outside with the kids right then and there, you can see what's being put away, how it's being packed and locked up. I think that'd be easier.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
And then I just have a question about the folks who selected reading and studying. I'm curious, from like an interaction between adults and youth of reading and studying, is that, did you have in mind someone reading aloud to a group of children or reading one-on-one, helping with homework? I'm really curious about the ideas there for anyone who selected reading and studying.
Hey, I selected reading and studying in association with what I do and what I offer, what I bring, with tattoo and the family enrichment forums. Usually it goes both ways. I encourage the youth to read, and I bring books, and usually I will read something out of, I don't know, a particular chapter. Like the Jay-Z book, for instance, Made in Harlem, I believe the name of it. I gave that out, but there were certain chapters, certain points in there I would read out, and then I would ask maybe some of the youth who weren't afraid to read a particular part of it. And I like that, as we all know, reading is fundamental. And I'm always trying to encourage the youth to find find themselves reading, basically.
Mhm.
So that's my rationale.
Definitely. And you know, I'm a reading captain, so we gave out 2,000 books this summer.
Wow.
And we have mounds and mounds of books for all ages. So definitely, you know, I could fill that bookshelf up that we have, you know. So reading is definitely fundamental. And with the way the education system is right now, anything we can do geared towards learning is definitely something we need to incorporate. You know, we definitely have to incorporate it. Mhm.
Thank you, Stacy. We know no other part of the city even comes close to competing with the South Philly reading captains. We've heard about the points many times.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. This is really helpful information. So to give a quick, just a quick clip of what we had planned to do tonight was to take this conversation and move into conversations about specific spaces, so that we could start discussing the ideas of how spaces are used. So people want to like lounge in front of the building, right by the main entrance. Do people want to gather there? Do people want to play out front? Do they want to play out back? Things like that, where we can start kind of narrowing into specific spaces and talking about the size of these spaces and the functionality of the spaces based on the conversation that we started tonight. I think you all know from being in person that we typically gather for 2 hours when we're in person. But because tonight we're on Zoom, we just want to make sure that we keep things to an hour, because we know that everyone is really busy, and this conversation is really helpful. And I think what we should do is send out like a poll or a form to folks who couldn't make it, get some feedback from them, and then have that second part of the conversation a couple weeks from now, if that makes the most sense. Is everyone okay with that? Just by a general thumbs up, if that makes sense for everyone, rather than sticking tonight. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. So just a couple quick next steps. Oh, hey, Coach Ed, how are you? Hi, Eleanor.
Hey.
Good to see you.
We at this rally.
Ed had the camera off. We have the rally off.
Gordon Snyder.
For Save Our Children.
Oh, okay.
It's nice. It's South Philly Unite. So they're say our names for the children that's been shot and things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. It's nice to see your faces.
We've been hearing y'all all along.
We was on here the whole time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we will send notes and we'll share the video. And like I said, we'll share a form with everyone, even if you were here tonight. We'll share the form with everyone so that you provide feedback and we can set up a conversation for the coming weeks. Just as a general next step, next Wednesday, we are going to meet to talk about the Vare studio work. So the work that was happening in the summer and the fall with the artists who were in residence for a brief time at Vare, and what the product of a lot of that work is. I think Steph shared the PDF with everyone. And next Wednesday is the time that we'll come together and speak with Philly Photo Art Center, Monument Lab, and a group called GD Loft, who's doing the graphic design for the book layout. Steph, is there any other info you'd like to share about next Wednesday?
No, that's it. I may send out questions soon, so just be on the lookout for those. I think a few of you have RSVP'd already, but if you'd like to attend, please let me know. You can also show up if you don't get around to RSVPing.
Yeah, thank you. All are welcome next Wednesday. Before we go, does anyone have any general questions that they just want to ask while we're all together? And even if we don't have time to answer them tonight, Steph or I or someone else from MTWB or our team could follow up.
I have a general question. I think you sent out contact information, because I need to reach out to both Miss Stacy and Miss Lisa. I know Lisa, I thought I had her number. I'm not sure if it's the correct number.
I'll put my number in the chat to you, okay?
All right, so I got a whole tub of books that we were trying to figure out what we were going to do, but anyway, that's good.
Okay. And I can connect you with Miss Lisa. I know she had a hop off, but
I
also,
appreciate that.
Yeah, Ken, did they say anything else about the pool as far as trying to raise money or anything?
Yeah, thanks, Coach Ed. We do have direction from the city to move forward with the pool design. They are very much in favor of keeping the pool at Vare. In terms of
All
funding,
right.
there is not.
Praise God.
Yeah, it's
Wow,
not.
that was good.
Not
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
We are very happy about it. I know
Yes. We all are.
and so
Thank you, Lord.
we're working with Rebuild and Parks and Rec to start to identify some greater funding sources who can fund that portion of the project, because we know it is above and beyond the budget. So we don't have info on their plan for that money yet, but we will continue designing the pool since they are in favor of keeping it as part of the project. And as soon as we have updates on funding sources, we will share those. If anyone knows of anyone looking to donate to the pool, let us know, because we are an open checking account right now for swimming. But we recognize that we want to be clear that obviously that is not community's responsibility whatsoever. And we will work very directly with Parks and Rec and Rebuild to push any grant making or funding
Are we able to do a GoFundMe?
Possibly.
Right.
Yeah, that could possibly work, Stacy. We will mention that in our conversations with the city. I don't know what. I will
What
bring it
angles
to
you got?
them, and we'll have a conversation about it to see if it is a possibility that they're willing to move forward.
Yeah.
Because at some point, I'm sure there will be some grants where
Yes.
have some match funding available, and that those could potentially work together. So yeah, I will connect with Rebuild and mention it. Yeah, and share info from there.
Okay, cool.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I know some people
That's
at Parks and Rec, so I can ask them questions too.
Yes,
do it, Daisy.
please do. Yes,
Ken,
yes.
I know our last conversation that we had, our one-on-one. Was you ever able to find out? Well, you'll let me know. Was you ever able to talk to George about any programming after? Starting in September, right?
Yes, Mike, we have not received any information about programming starting after September.
Okay.
And our understanding is that the building, although there are some people actively working in the building and reporting to work at the building, that the building is not open. So I do think, based on that information, it would be a good time for us to have a follow-up call to talk about potential virtual programming for teams.
Right.
Can we follow up with you, Steph and I, directly?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, Naima. How are you?
All right.
She all late.
I
Hey,
know.
Naima.
I know I had a previous engagement, but I heard everybody.
Oh,
well,
okay.
most of it.
Okay.
I came in on the conversation of the conference room and the sizes of them.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to just chime in a little bit on that. Part of my suggestion with the rooms were possibly having pocket doors made in the design so that you can have the room smaller or widen the room depending on the services that will be provided at the time. I'm glad to hear about them wanting to keep the pool in, but is there a date that has been set for the closing of Vare for the project itself?
There has not, Naima.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing it up. We are working with Parks and Rec to determine
Y'all not running down the street.
where all programs would have to be, the date by which all programs would have to be relocated. And we know that there is future conversations we'll have to have with you all about where programs go, which programs go to which places, of course. But no, there is not a set date. It's not going to be this summer. It's not going to be in the fall. Probably at the earliest, it would be spring 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, the summer's almost over, but I remember the date, the tentative date that y'all had scheduled was October. That's why it was just coming close, the date, the month rather. So that's the reason why I asked.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking. And that is on us. We absolutely need to provide an updated schedule after some of the delays that have been related to COVID and
COVID-19.
design feedback. So early in the meeting, I had just mentioned that after this next approval from Parks and Rec, where they give us like the final thumbs up on the building plan and the site plan, then I think we'll have a really good idea of what the remaining schedule is, and we will share that schedule once we have it in place.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Naima. Thank you for joining us. It's nice to hear your voice.
It is. I have a general question.
I received my reminder from staff.
I have a general question about Vare. If anyone, how is Vare? How's the activity there? Is the building still closed? I do see pictures of the food program. I'm just curious. I guess only Mike could probably answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, Pastor Dave, I think summer camp ended a couple weeks ago. And summer camp was like ages 6 to 16. When we visited, there were we kind of were able to sit with two different groups, a group that was 6 to 10 and a group that was 11 to 16.
Was that indoors?
It was indoors, yes.
Wow.
And the camp, the building was only open for the camp, no other programming.
Okay.
My understanding at this point is that George, possibly Will, and Miss Case are still at Vare, just kind of like doing general building upkeep, but that the building is not open for the general public. The site as a whole, I think, is.
Okay.
Can I make one more comment?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, Ms. Stacy, it was really helpful when you started talking about what your calming space felt like and that it had plants. There are a lot of different places that the design team can look at inside and out, and a lot of different ways that, we're going to be creating small, medium, and large spaces, from the size of tables to plantings to the size of rooms, and then even some custom hangout spaces that are designed, and probably built with the Vare stakeholder community. So the more everyone is able to get specific and just to start thinking about, hey, like really what makes me feel calm, those sorts of cues, make sure that the design team can design spaces that meet you. We've got a lot of space to play with, and you can't exactly say that there's going to be a space for exactly everyone, but the more that everyone is able to talk with that level of specificity, that's really, really helpful. So thank you for that. And if you all could just keep digging on that, Pastor Dave. If you got colors, if you got, you need to put speakers under the bench.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Definitely a PA system. Need a good PA system so we can have that positive music playing at all times. It's all about making the world better.
Yes, ma'am.
Making the world better.
Yeah.
Materials, all that sort of stuff. Some of y'all might like wood, some of you might like metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you as always for some really great conversation and sharing with us. It's great, like Alex said, to inform the design, but it's also really just nice hearing about you all and getting to know you better. Pastor Dave, when you mentioned the tea with the ginger and lemon,
man.
Last week we had a really nice conversation with Lisa, and one of the show and tell items she brought was lemon, and she was telling us about lemon tea and lemon water, like all different lemon drinks. And it's
Wow.
really nice getting to know you all.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
you were on
you.
like a whole like same vibe early in the conversation, and I had background knowledge about the lemon tea, and I just had to keep it to myself, even though I was really excited by it.
Wow, that's awesome.
So great. Well, yeah, it was great seeing all of you. As I mentioned, we'll follow up, and I will hang on just for a couple minutes if anybody has anything else they want to talk about or share or has questions on. Other than that, great seeing you, and we hope to see you again next Wednesday to talk about the Vare Studio.
Okay. All right. Good seeing everybody. Take care. Stay safe.
Good night. All right, y'all too.
Good seeing everybody. Have a good one, y'all.
Okay.